A Course in Carols song number 10 is Go Tell It on the Mountain. We're going to be doing this in two keys. We're going to start off in the key of F with an F chord, a B flat, a C, and a C7. Then on the third verse, we're going to move to a G, a C, a D, and a D7. All right. So here we go. On an F chord with A as our starting note. 1, 2, 3. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. While shepherds kept their watching o'er silent flocks by night, behold, throughout the heavens there shone a holy light. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. The shepherds feared and trembled when low above the earth rang out the angel chorus that hailed the Savior's birth. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Down in a lowly manger, the humble Christ was born, and God sent us salvation that blessed Christmas morn. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. All right, so there's Go Tell It on the Mountain. Let's talk about our chords. We got our F chord, which is first finger, first fret on the second string, second finger, second fret on the fourth. Then we've got our B flat chord. We've got a bar or a partial bar on the first fret. Then we've got our second finger, second fret on the third, and third finger, third fret on the fourth. We've got our C, which is our third finger, third fret on the first string, and C7, our first finger, first fret on the first. And then switching to G, we've got our G chord. Many different ways to do the G chord, as we've already discussed. At least 4 different ways, okay? And then we've got our C chord, which we already discussed. And then we've got our D chord, which is barring across the second fret. You can use one finger or two. Sometimes I do use 2, sometimes I do use 1. Okay, and then for your D7, you're just going to move, instead of the pinky being on the 5th fret for the D chord, you're going to move that down to being the second finger on the second fret of the first string. Your second finger on the 3rd fret of the first string, sorry. Or if you're doing the thing where you're barring with 2 fingers, you're going to use your 3rd finger instead on the 3rd fret of the first string. Okay? All right, so those are our chords. Now let's talk about the one new strumming technique that we have here, and that's our chink, down, up, chink, up. Okay, so I don't do chunks. Chunks require all 4 fingers and are louder, and in my opinion, they're a little bit slower and more cumbersome. I get plenty of bang out of my buck with a chink, which is a which is what I call a single finger chunk, right? Okay. And so to make a chink, if you want to look down here in the lower right-hand corner, you're going to see I put the fleshy part of my palm across the strings. Okay. So it's like a little chop, like a little karate chop. And then I flick with my finger. Now this happens so close together that you would think that they're one movement, but it's really important that the fleshy part of the palm reaches the strings before the finger does, and if it doesn't, you get something like this, right? And that's not what you want. You want a purely percussive sound. So what I always tell my students is to do chop, flick, chop, flick. So just flicking with your first finger. Chop, flick, chop, flick. And then when you get feeling better, you can go chlick, right? Which is a chop and a flick put together. Chlick, 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 chlick. And when you get really good at that, you can go chlick, up, chlick, up, chlick, up, chlick, up. And when you're feeling really comfortable with that, you can start adding some down strums in between them. So you get down, up, click, up, 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 down, up, click, up. And then you can get this going blazingly fast. Which is not as fast. I think that's faster than you can usually get a chunk without it being too cumbersome, right? And so this is sort of my own way of doing it. I've never really seen anybody else do it this way, but you're welcome to substitute in chunks if you're already used to doing those and you're happy with those, and you can do them relatively fast. So as far as the notation goes, we have the little upside down boxes are down. We've got the V as our up. The X is going to stand for our chlick, chink, chunk, whatever you want to call it, right? Scratch. Some people call it a scratch. And then we have another V for another up. So our pattern becomes down, up, chink, up, down, up, chink, up, down, up, chink, up. Go tell it on the mountain. Now, do you notice what I just did? Okay, so I started leaving off the downs, right? So I'm just going over the strings on those downs. So if I wanted to be technically accurate, I should put a dash there and then put another up, chink up, right? To say that I'm not going to do anything there, right? So my downs are really only coming on when I change chords. So listen for that, okay? Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere go. Now, did you notice what I did on the E flat? I stuck it on the end of beat 2 instead of putting it on beat 3 where it belongs, okay? And the reason for that is it gives it a little bit more swing and is just a little bit more interesting to listen to. Let me see if I can do it the way that it's written. I've done it so many times this way, I don't know if I can do it the other way anymore. Okay. Over the hills and everywhere. Right? I could do it that way, right? Okay. Or you could do everywhere. Right? Everywhere. Right? And leave the down off if you wanted to. Or you could do it everywhere, which is what I've been doing, right? So we got down, up, chink, up, chink, up, right? So I'm doing that, I'm sticking it half a beat back, and that just gives it a little bit of oomph, okay? And this is something that's done all the time in popular music now, where we take what would normally be on the third beat and we push it back half a beat, and some people call it a push. It's really just a syncopation. Okay, so one more time. Let's try that. Over the hills, if you want to do it with me. Ready, and over the hills and everywhere go. Right? Okay, so you get that. And pretty soon it'll just become second nature to you once you do it. And anytime you're using this chink, it's perfectly appropriate to shift that chord over just a half a beat and give yourself a little bit of oomph, as Aldrin Guerrero would say. Oomph. Right? I don't know if you guys have ever watched any of his Uke Minutes videos, but they're awesome. I think they're still available on YouTube if you want to check out some of the techniques. I've learned a lot from his videos, and other people too. James Hill and watching Jake Shimabukuro and many more. Aaron Kime. These are all good people to learn from. Lil Rev, another good one. They all have excellent tutorial videos out there. All right, so that is pretty much it. When we get into the chorus, we're just doing one purse, you know? And so sometimes I'll do a 4-finger roll. So let's talk about 4-finger rolls while we're here. Okay, so 4-finger roll. A 4-finger roll is not all 4 fingers at the same time, because that would sound like that, okay? 4-finger roll is fanning your fingers out one at a time, and that way you get this sort of wonderful multiple attack, right? Okay? And so to get your hand to be able to be used to doing this, you need to start out with just going pinky, ring, middle, index, one at a time. Pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky, ring, middle, index. This is an excellent thing to do while you're watching TV or something. It's just practice unfolding your hand in the opposite direction from what we're used to usually unfolding our hand. Usually we're used to opening our hand, unfolding it from the index open to the pinky finger, right? Well, this is the counterintuitive way. You got to open from the pinky to the index, right? And you just got to get used to that motion. And after you've done that a few thousand times, right, then you can really get it into, you know, these really nice fan motion movements. And you can insert one of those anytime you want a little extra oomph, Aldrin, on any downstrum. Any downstrum you can use this on, right? Okay? So, while shepherds kept their watching, or silent flocks by night, behold, throughout the heavens there shone a holy light. And of course, you can do them softly, not just loudly. I'm just going to let that ring. So they don't have to be loud, right? They can be nice and soft. They can be... And you just barely brush the strings, but you still get that nice roll effect. And so that's something to practice, and you can throw it in for oomph or just for a little bit of arpeggiation. Of course, it's also nice to just put in those harp-like thumb strums. Okay, so I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and just keep strumming and keep playing and singing and spread that Christmas joy.